Wonderful. Um, but yeah, just so you know, test optional schools, they're not limited to like mid-level colleges. In fact, it's mostly high-level colleges that are going test optional because they realized that applicants show their strength usually through extracurriculars and things outside of school, not just academics. So this includes colleges like Yale, Princeton, Harvard, and Cornell. And it says here this is only confirmed for the 2022-2023 cycle. However, they have confirmed for the 2024 cycle that they are test optional as well. But that's like once again, that doesn't mean that the ACT is not important. And also, if you maybe had some not so amazing grades in freshman or sophomore year, maybe you were goofing around a little bit. I know I sure was. Then the ACT can help compensate for mediocre grades and GPAs that are holding you back and are not representative of the student that you are today. All right, so what is on the ACT? So the ACT has four sections, which is math, reading, English, and science. Science is on the next slide. We'll get to that. So math, it's going to generally be content from Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, which is the expected coursework for an American high school student, at least by junior year. And it says here that there's going to be two sections. That is incorrect. There's actually only going to be one section. And in that section, you're going to be allowed to use a calculator for the whole exam. So even if there's questions where you don't need to use a calculator, you will be able to use a calculator for them. So this exam is less about how strong your mental power is and more about how you can effectively use mathematical concepts. Of course, sometimes it is better to just do things in your head because, I mean, you're not going to pull out your calculator to do 10 minus 5, right? Um, so this test is significantly faster than the SAT in terms of questions per minute. The SAT is much slower, whereas in the ACT for the math section, you're going to have 60 minutes, 1 hour to answer 60 questions. So that's 1 minute per question. And some of these questions can be somewhat complicated. So you're definitely going to be pressed for time on the ACT compared to the SAT. However, generally, ACT questions are slightly more simple, so it should balance out. I'll get to the point later where I discuss the difficulty between SAT and ACT. It's mostly going to be multiple choice questions, and there might be a couple of grid-in questions, which are a type of free response that can be read by a computer. When you take a practice ACT, you'll know what I mean. There's going to be a lot of word problems and application questions as well, where you need to extract data from a passage. So yeah, you have to have good comprehension as well. Now, for reading, there's no set standard for reading. It's just it's gonna be expected that you're gonna have general high school level reading skills, and some things you're gonna be doing are analyzing text and extracting information, making interpretations and conclusions as to why certain things are written the way they are written, and analyzing the author's intent. Why did the author write something like this? And also, basic vocabulary and graph and data analysis. That's actually surprisingly important. The reading section will provide data and graphs to you, and you're going to have to answer questions based on that. And yeah, you're going to have 35 minutes to answer 40 questions, and you're going to have to read 4 to 5 passages. So it's going to be around 8 to 10 questions per passage, and you're gonna have to do this all in 35 minutes. It's really, really fast. So yeah, it's much faster than the SAT in this case as well. For English, English just means writing, and where it's going to be mainly focused on grammar techniques and using grammar rules. So you're going to have to deal with skills like using grammar and identifying which techniques should be used in certain areas. You're going to have to deal with utilizing context, which is basically this technique works here, but doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, pretty much that's it. And also connecting ideas so that they flow together properly. As someone who's doing editing work right now, it's shocking how much people don't know how to connect ideas together. So hopefully I'll be able to teach you guys how to do that. The time bank is might seem absurd for English. You're gonna have 45 minutes to answer 75 questions. Yeah, that sounds pretty insane, but it's not as bad as you think because the English questions are much more simple compared to the math and reading questions, where most of the questions you're going to be answering them within like 10 seconds. So overall, you should be good if you prepare enough. Now for science, all right, for all of you like STEM people who thought you were going to get a break and you're going to be able to flex that bio, chem, or physics knowledge, sorry, that's not going to happen. The science section is basically reading 2.0, where remember how I said in the reading section you're going to have some graphs and data to analyze? The science section is basically that times 10, where it's only going to be data analysis, extraction, and also reading scientific literature. The general structure is going to be where you're going to be given a scientific passage that describes like an experiment or a sample of data or some random topic. And the test taker, you guys, you're going to have to answer questions based on information from that passage. And literally no science knowledge is actually required to do this section. There is going to be 35 minutes to answer 40 questions with a varying amount of scientific passages. This seems like a easy part of the ACT, but ironically, it can actually be one of the hardest parts of the ACT if you don't know what you're doing. We're going to be getting into that later in the program, like maybe in late March. So yeah, for now, let's continue. So here are the current dates for the ACT exam. Uh, so yeah, on April 15th, 2023, that is going to be the first, sorry, it's going to be the nearest exam from now, and the regular registration deadline is on March 10th. So it's advisable that you sign up for that as soon as possible so you don't have to pay extra fees for the late deadline. After the late deadline, March 24th, basically gone. You're not allowed to register for that anymore. There's also exams in June and July around summertime. The summertime is honestly a really good time to take an ACT since you won't be focusing on school as much. April, oh, apologies. April might collide with finals timings for some people, especially if you're a maybe a senior or junior. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're aiming for, April 15th. All right. Okay, let's talk about percentiles and what a good score is. Now, I'm sure many of you know this, but the ACT is not the kind of test where you're supposed to get 100 or you're supposed to get a score that is, perfect. The ACT, the way it's measured from a scale of 1 to 36. I'm only showing up until 21 because frankly, you guys shouldn't be getting anything below like a 25 probably. Um, but over in the 5 columns towards the right are percentiles, which basically show what percentage of people you are above if you get said score. I'll give you an example. So if you get a composite score of 33, composite means like your average score between English, math, reading, and science. If you get a composite score of 33, it means you're in the 98th percentile, which means you're better or you performed better than 98% of people who took the exam that year, which is obviously really, really good. In my experience, the best baseline score is 30, where if you get a 30, you'll get into college, guaranteed. But I know that's not what you guys are here for. You guys are here to get a great score that'll get you into an amazing college. Like me, I got 35 and now here I'm at Boston University having an awesome time. So generally, in my opinion, the score that you should aim for is 34. 34 is a really hard score to achieve, but if you get a 34, you're going to have a lot of good opportunities opened up to you. So that is the score that I think everyone should make their goal, but 30 should be considered a strong baseline, and anything between 30 and 34 should be able to get you into a decent school. So let's start off with some actual math work. We are going to be starting off with math for around the next 4 to 5 sessions, and then we'll move into English, and then we're going to be doing reading and then science last. So the most basic math you're going to find on the ACT is basic linear algebra. And, that includes things like, linear equations simply, where you just have, oh, you have an expression for a plus 2b, and they give you the values of a and b. What is it going to be equal to? Simple like that. A plus a is equal to 16. And then you're going to have, linear algebra up there where they're going to ask you to draw lines, and they're going to ask you to find y values or x values depending on the value of the corresponding variable. So, we have a line like y is equal to 3x plus 1. Okay, well, we have our y-intercept up there. And then, you know, we draw a line like that. It's not a perfect line, but I'm on a tablet on a PC, so it's only the best I can do. And then okay, let's say x is equal to 1. What is y equal? Y is equal to 4. Should be pretty simple. Now, usually it's not going to be that simple. Let's get into some algebraic word problems. These are more the type of questions that you are going to see on an ACT or SAT. ACT questions might be a little bit simpler, but you're still going to have a lot of word problems nonetheless. Let's take a look at the first question. By the way, all three of these questions are based off of same base, like question base. That's going to be very common where they give you a scenario and you're going to answer multiple questions based off of it. Let's take the first question. In 2014, County X had 783 miles of paved roads. Starting in 2015, the county has been building 8 miles of new paved roads each year. So at this rate, how many miles of paved road is County X going to have by 2030? So, okay, we're starting in 2015 and we're ending at 2030. So that's 15 years, right? And if we have 783 miles of paved road already, so we can say y is equal to the amount of paved roads we have, and then we already have 783, so we can start from there. And if we're building 8 miles of paved road each year, then we can do 783 plus 8x, where x is the number of years that have passed, and we put 8 there to represent that 8 miles of road are being built each year. And then if you just do some basic math, 783 plus 8 times 8, then we get an answer of 847. So 847 miles of paved road would have built by 2030. Now, what about a question like the one down below? Okay, same information. Now they're asking at this rate, that was an awful underline, sorry. At this rate, in which year will County X have at least 1,000 miles of paved road? Okay, so this is like an inequality type question where they're asking, okay, if y gets to this point, what is x going to be? So if they're saying at least 1,000 miles of paved road, let's just to start set it to 1,000. We'll set y to equal to 1,000. And we take our equation base up here. So let's just do 1,000 is equal to 8x plus 783. And you can solve that pretty simply. You subtract 783 from both sides. And then, all right, you get 217 is equal to 8x. We divide the whole thing by 8. And what is our x value? It's going to be 27.125. Now, however, they're asking at this rate, in which year is County X going to have at least 1,000 miles of paved road? Now, x is equal to the number of years that have passed, right? So at 27.125 years past 2015, we would have 1,000 miles of paved road. But we can't think like that because we need to give them a specific year number, like 2015 or 2016. We can't say 2015.5 or something like that, right? So here's the thing. They're saying at least 1,000 miles. So it can be 1,000 or above. So the two options we have are x is equal to 27 or x is equal to 28. It's not going to be 27 because if we choose 27, then obviously we're going to have less than 1,000 miles of paved road. So it's just straight up wrong. If we select x is equal to 28, it's going to be above 1,000, which is going to be correct. So if they said, so anytime you have a question that's saying at least, then your answer is going to be greater. All right. What about the next portion? In 2014, County X, okay, yeah, same question base. And then they just ask, okay, if n is the number of years after 2014, which of the following functions gives the number of miles of paved road? So they just straight up are asking you for the linear equation, which we've already created before. So, you just find the equation that looks similar to the one we generated previously. That's going to be C, and you have solved the question. Okay, so since we're getting some questions, I'm going to say that my question policy is I'm only going to take 2 questions tops, since we don't have a whole lot of time. And if it's simple stuff, then I'm only going to be able to take 1 question. So Sai Vignesh, you have a question?
Wait, so for question number 1, we got the answer 847?
Um,
I was just
yes.
gonna ask that too.
And
I'm
if
pretty
you
sure
know
it should be 903.
yeah.
Oh, my bad. That was I did 783 plus 8 times 8. Yeah, no. The answer that you put down there was correct. It's not 847, it's 783 plus 8 times 15. By accident, that was 8 times 8. So yeah, thank you for catching that.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, so let's move on. Okay, let's try this ourselves. So this is one of my favorite questions because it can trip you up if you're not watching. In order to replicate the amount of time that ACT is going to give you, I'll give you guys 1 minute to solve these 2 questions, starting now. All right then, so 1 minute is up. Let's come back and check this question out. So, all right, we have this guy named Miguel, and he's charging $50 for the first 2 hours and $20 per hour after the first 2 hours. So initially, I think that most of you would have probably chosen something like C, right? Because you would have thought, oh, well, $20 per hour, that means that, 20 is the slope. And if he's starting out with $50, then 50 is is the y-intercept, right? Well, that's not completely correct because he's charging $50 for the first 2 hours and $20 after the first 2 hours. So from our original value for how many hours we're charging for the $20 portion, we need to subtract 2 from the x. So it's going to be y is equal to 20 times x minus 2. Once again, we're doing x minus 2 because it says here that he's only charging $20 per hour after the first 2 hours. So if we had 3 hours, for example, then that's going to be plus 20 because 3 minus 2 is equal to 1, and then 1 times 20 is equal to 20, right? So if you expand this, you're going to get y is equal to 20x minus 40 plus 50, and this condenses to plus 10. So 20x plus 10. Therefore, it is B that is the correct answer. For the second question, all right, ability to use the function G to estimate the cost of a planned floor area of X square feet. If the build estimates that the cost is $106,000, what is the planned floor area? All right, easy. You just set 106,000 as your Y variable. And You use your trusty calculator or, good old math skills to figure it out. And okay, if we subtract 10,000 from that, then we get 96,000. We divide the whole thing by 80, and then we get an X value of 1,200. Oh wait, not 12,000, 1,200. Yep. All right, we have one question from Saket. All right, I guess we'll continue on then. Okay, so now here we have another small mini quiz. I'm gonna give you guys 1 minute to solve this starting now. This is another one of those questions where same piece of information, but multiple questions. All right, everybody, a minute has passed, so let's get back to this. All right, so I have Sino, our food truck owner, and the first question is asking which equation represents the amount of profit he gains. So, okay, first we have to come up with our y-intercept. They give us the y-intercept here where it says what? Forgot to turn draw on, my bad. All right. So he pays a $2,000 fee. Profit is the amount of money you've made in total. So if he's paying a fee, then that's going to be minus 2,000, not plus 2,000. And he sells a single piece of chicken for $3. So it's going to be y is equal to 3x minus 2,000. So A is going to be the correct answer. For the second part, all right, he sells 1,500 pieces of chicken by the end of the month. So, we just plug that into our equation. And we should get $2,500. By the way, I just wanted to make it clear, the hand raise function is meant to be used for asking questions. I appreciate if you want to share your answer, but I'm going to be going over the answer already. So please only raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you very much. All right. Now the next a very important thing on the ACT is solving systems of equations. This is when you're given two equations. It can be linear or nonlinear, and you are asked to find the values of x and y where they are true, or the equation works. If you're thinking about this linearly, you can think of it as the point where the two equations will intersect. So let's take the first one here. The most common strategy is to do the process of eliminating a variable. So, one thing you can do is, okay, if we were to say subtract these equations from each other, yeah, that's like the most common tactic where you subtract the equations from each other to get rid of one of the variables. If we do that, we're going to end up with like negative x minus y is equal to -3. That's not very helpful, right? But what if we multiplied the top equation by 2? So it becomes 4x plus 2y is equal to 10. And then, we subtract these two equations from each other. Let me just erase the top bits here. All right, if we subtract the equation, put parentheses around the equation that you're using for subtraction so that you don't get confused and think that the negative only applies to the firstmost term. So, okay, we do 3x minus 4x, that's going to be negative x. 2y minus 2y, that's going to be 0. We eliminated that successfully. And then 8 minus 10, that's going to be negative 2. So, we multiply the whole thing by -1 to get rid of the negative part on the x, and we get x is equal to 2. And then from there on, we can just select one of the equations and plug x into it. So, we'll just select the topmost one since it's a really simple one. So 2 times 2 plus y is equal to 5. Y is equal to 1. Perfect. If you want to check your answer, then you can take these values and simply plug them into the second equation. However, I wouldn't recommend doing that on the ACT unless you finish your test early, because ACT is very fast and you're not going to have time to check typically. The second question, this one, you can attack it a little bit differently. So to start off, I am actually going to let you guys try this one for a minute and we'll go from there. All right, everybody, a minute has passed, so let's come back to this. In order to solve this question, you need to multiply the top equation and the bottom equation so that you have one of the terms be equal to each other. In this case, I'm going to choose the y term to be our eliminated variable, excuse me. You could also choose the x term, but I find that a little bit clunky because you're going to have to multiply them both by large numbers, or at least you're going to have to multiply a second equation by a large number of 8, perhaps. So the top question, all right, let's think of, what is the greatest common multiple between 9 and 6? 18 comes to mind. So I'll multiply the top equation by 2 and the bottom equation by 3. That turns into 16x plus 18y, which is equal to 180. And then that's going to turn into 9x plus 18y, which is equal to 100 and, oh wait, yeah, that should be 117, I believe. Yeah, 3 times, yeah, 117. And then we subtract the two equations. All right, we get 7x, which is equal to 180. Yeah, it's going to be 63. We divide the whole thing by 7. We get x is equal to 9. Great. We'll just choose a random equation to plug that into. Let's choose the second one, just because. 3 times 9 plus 6y is equal to 39. And this is going to turn into 27. We subtract 27 from both sides. We get 6y is equal to 12, and y is equal to 2. And once again, you can check that if you like, but yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Nothing much left to say. All right. Now, what about creating your own systems? Now, this one involves percentages, which can be a little bit weird. So I'll go through this one myself. All right, my bad. Okay. So Maiva bought a pair of pants and a briefcase at the department store. The sum of the prices of the pants and the briefcase before sales tax was $130. There was no sales tax on the pants and a 9% sales tax on the briefcase. So what was the price of the pants? Okay. I'm pretty sure y'all know what sales tax is, but just to clear it up for anyone who might be confused, sales tax is a small percentage increase that you have to pay for on certain items. And they're saying that the total amount she paid is $136.75 with sale tax. So in order to solve this, we need to create a system. So they say that the sum of the price of the pants and briefcase before sales tax is $130. The best way to approach questions like these is to create variables and make statements that you know are absolutely true. So let's create variables. Let's say x is equal to the price of the pants and y is equal to the price of the briefcase. All right, and we know that the price of these two things combined before tax is $130. So x plus y is equal to 130. Now they say there's no sales tax on the pants and there's a 9% sales tax on the briefcase, and that the total is 136.75. So let's write that here. 136.75 is equal to, okay, so we said X is the cost of the pants, right? And this says that there's no sales tax. So that means we can leave X alone. Now, Y, it says there's a 9% sales tax. So we are paying 9% more for the briefcase. in order to represent that, you can write it as y. You can write that as 1.09 y, where the 1 represents, okay, this is like our baseline, and the 0.9 represents the 9% increase. So x plus 1.09 y. And we can simply subtract this. And then we'll end up with negative 0.09 y, which is equal to negative 6.75. And then you can divide this by negative 0.09 to isolate the y. And your final answer should be y is equal to 75. However, be careful. This is not the answer. They're asking for the price of the pants, right? And the price of the pants is X, not Y. So we have to plug this back in. Let's use our first equation because it's way simpler. X plus 75 is equal to 130. X is equal to $55. And that is the correct answer. So yeah, just to recap, the best way to approach problems like these is to assign variables like it's to assign variables like I did, and to then one second. And to then make statements that you know are true and then go from there. All right, now I'm gonna let you guys try this by yourselves. Now, this question can be a little bit complicated, so I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes to solve this. Really try and think about this one and try and think about how to represent hours in this case. Everybody, 2 minutes are up, so hopefully you're able to get some kind of idea of the answer. But yeah, for now, we're gonna go over it. So, okay, each morning, John, he jogs at 6 miles per hour and he rides a bike at 12 miles per hour. So his goal is to jog and ride a total of at least 9 miles in no more than an hour. So let's get this straight. He wants to get the miles greater than or equal to 9, and he wants the time to be less than or equal to 1 hour. So let's think about how to represent miles and hours. So simply they give the miles to us where he jogs J miles and rides his bike B miles. So we can say that J plus B is equal to the total amount of miles he's traveled, and he wants that to be above or equal to 9, right? So we can say it's greater than or equal to 9. Now, which of the following answers has this equation in it? Well, it can't be B because that is a less than, and it can't be C because that is a less than and it has 1. So it's got to be either D or A. Now, which one of those is it? Now, we got the first part, which is the amount of miles. Now we have to think about the time. So how do we represent how much time he has spent? Well, remember what we said. It says that John jogs at 6 miles per hour. So if we were to say, okay, he jogs this amount of miles, depending on how many miles he runs, the time he spent changes. So, if he jogged 6 miles, then that is going to be equal to 1 hour. So if we say J over 6 is equal to the amount of time he has spent jogging, that makes sense because if J is equal to 6, then this is equal to 1 hour, right? And if, J is equal to, say, 12, then that's going to be equal to 2 hours. And we can do the same thing for the bike, where we can say, okay, B over 12. So if we ride 12 miles, that's equal to 1 hour. So then we can say, okay, these represent time jogging and then this represents time biking, and then these two combined is total time, and we said that his time needs to be less than or equal to 1, right? So this is the complete equation, and therefore A is the correct answer. I know that was, maybe it might be a little bit much for some people to take in, but hopefully that was a clear enough explanation. All right, I know I just got you guys to try this, but now I'm gonna have you try it again. I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes to solve 3 questions starting now. P.S. I know the timings might seem a little bit fast, but these are actually slower than what you're gonna have on the ACT, realistically. So, you know, I'm just training you guys. All right, everybody. 2 minutes have passed. Let's come out and check out these 2 questions. I accidentally said 3. I meant to say 2. All right, so we have Maya going to her clothes shop. We have to come up with an expression for the amount of money she has spent. So just to make it clear, A is going to be, I'm going to use colors to make it easier. A is going to be sweaters, and B is going to be t-shirts, and C is going to be sweatshirts. So Y is equal to the total amount of money she's spending, right? So A is corresponding to sweaters, and sweaters cost 20. So it's going to be 20A. All right, and then B is going to be t-shirts. T-shirts are 13, so that's going to be 13B. And then we have lastly sweatshirts, which are $19, so it's going to be 19C. C is the correct answer. Now, what about the next one? If Maya spent $183 total, all right, $183 total, and she bought 5 sweaters and 2 t-shirts. So sweaters are A, right? So A is equal to 5, and then B is equal to 2. How many sweatshirts did she buy? So what is C equal to? All right, let's plug that in. All right. So if we expand this, then we should get 126 plus 19C, and just do some simple math. We get 57 is equal to 19C if we subtract 126 from both sides. And then if we divide the whole thing by 19, you'll get that C is equal to 3. So she bought 3 sweatshirts. All right, doesn't seem like there's any questions, so let's move on. All right, finding the solution of an equation. So here, they're asking you to simply solve for the equation. And to solve for the equation, you have to find the value of y that will create a true statement. Basically, the way to do this is to just simplify it until you can simplify it no longer. So by simplify, I mean expand everything. Expand means to take, parentheses and try and eliminate them. And same thing with exponents. So let's expand this and get 3 over 2 minus 3y is equal to 3 over y, 3 over 5 plus 15y. Now we have to isolate the terms. Isolation means you take terms of the same type and you move them to the same side, and you take, usually constants, and you move those to the other side. So all the constants are in one area and all the variables, or at least the same variables, are on the other side. So we're going to move the 3y over there, and we're going to move the 3 over 5 over there. So let's add 3y. And we'll subtract 3 over 5 on both sides. So we end up with 18y on the right. Let me write that a little bit lower. 18y on the right side, and then 3 over 2 minus 3 over 5 on the left side. We can, change the denominators to make this easier to solve. So the greatest common multiple between 2 and 5 is 10. So we'll change the denominators to 10. So 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. So we gotta do 3 times 5. That's going to be 15 on top. And then if we change this to 10, we gotta multiply the top by 2. So that's going to be 6. And then we get 9 over 10 is equal to 18y. And then, okay, we just divide the whole thing by 18 to isolate the y. In order to make this easier to visualize, you can, instead of saying divide by 18, you can say we're multiplying the whole thing by 1 over 18, which is essentially the same thing, but it looks a little bit simpler. You cancel out the 9 and the 18, and you end up with y is equal to 1 over 20. So yeah, pretty simple. Nothing too complicated there. I'm gonna let you guys try that out by yourselves for 2 minutes starting now. All right, everybody, 2 minutes are up. So let's come back and check out these questions. First question's relatively simple. You just expand at first. So we expand the terms on the left side. We get -6 plus 4.8, which is equal to -9x plus 7.2. We isolate the x, forgot to put an x there. We isolate the x variables. So let's subtract 9x from both, and then we subtract 4.8 from both as well. We get 3x is equal to 2.4. Divide by 3, we get x is equal to 0.8. Pretty simple. Now with the next one, you can solve this the standard way, nothing wrong with that. Another way you can do this is to, yes, all right. If you didn't notice, 4y plus 6 is similar to 2y plus 3 in that 4y plus 6 is simply 2y plus 3 times 2. So we can say that -2x is equal to 2 times 2y plus 3. And that, okay, if we divide this thing by 2, it'll stay essentially the same equation. Then we get -x is equal to 2y plus 3. And then guess what? We can do this thing called substitution where we say, okay, 2y plus 3 is equal to -x. Let's treat 2y plus 3 like a fat variable and plug that directly into the second equation. So we replace the 2y plus 3 with a -x. And by doing that, we get, let me start simple. Okay, we get 2 times -x is equal to 3x minus 5. That should not be a -3. All right. Subtract 3x from both sides, we get -5x is equal to -5. And then we get x is equal to 1. So it's got to be either A or B. And then we take the x equals 1 and we simply substitute that into maybe the top equation. Okay, we get -2 is equal to 4y plus 6. Subtract 6 from both sides. We get -8 is equal to 4y. Divide the whole thing by 4. Y is equal to -2. So our final answer is 1 common -2. And B is going to be the correct answer. Seems like we have a question. Yes, Avanish.
Yeah, in this equation, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, you in the second question, like, can you just like directly use the previous
Directly
methods?
solve it. Yeah, of course, absolutely. You can use whatever method you want on standardized tests. There's no set rules or anything at all. Use whatever is fastest for you.
Okay, and one more
Uh,
question is that, and one more question
mhm.
is that, do you suggest using the hit and trial method? That means like replacing the x value and y value.
Oh, no,
Some,
absolutely not. Never ever use that method, because if you run into a complicated equation where they have large values, something like above 10, you're going to be at that for a long time. When the ACT is all about speed, you need to use a proper method or procedure.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, Avanish. All right, let's move on. All right, so let's try this again. These are a little bit different. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to solve these. I know it's a little bit fast, but gotta get that speed up. All right, everybody, 1 minute is up, so let's come back and check these problems out. All right, first equation, we have this nasty fraction over here. Let's simplify that. Let's get rid of that. All right, negative y plus 10 is equal to, all right, let's distribute that 1 over 10 into that. We get 2y minus 20. All right, let's isolate the variables. We get 30 is equal to 3y. Y is equal to 10. Pretty simple. Now this one, some of you guys might be confused at your answer, and there's a reason for that. Actually, no, never mind. Sorry, I was thinking of a different question. This is a perfectly normal question. All right, let's solve this. All right, you can choose either of the variables to be your elimination variable. I'm just gonna go with X because we've been bullying Y for the past couple of slides. All right, let's multiply the bottom equation by 2. That's going to turn into 8x plus 12y, which is equal to negative 96. On second thought, now we have a massive negative number to deal with. I just put myself in that situation. It's fine though. This is still easily solvable. All right, let's subtract these two equations. All right, 8x minus 8x is going to be 0. 3y minus 12y is going to be negative 9y. And then 15 minus 96. All right, that's going to be 111. I think that's right. Yeah, should it be? Seems like it was different last time I remember. Yeah, no, that's definitely 111. All right. And if we divide by negative 9, then we get a pretty nasty number, honestly, of negative 12 and 1/3, or negative 12.33. And then you can simply solve for the x variable from that position. I will say, typically on ACT or SAT, they won't give you, these nasty numbers that have like lots of decimal points. On the ACT, it's definitely a little bit more common than the SAT, because ACT is full calculator, meaning that the test makers are probably going to think, oh, well, they have a calculator, so they can deal with all these crunchy numbers, right? So anyway, that's that. Let's move on. All right, before we move on, we gotta talk about relationships between linear lines. So there's 3 main relationships that you need to be aware of, where you have the no solution scenario, where you have 2 lines that are parallel, and parallel means that they have the same slope, but it means that they have, that was an awful letter D. All right, yeah, they have the same slope, but they have different y-intercepts, and therefore their lines never touch. And then we have the next scenario, which is all solutions, which means that the lines are practically identical. And then the one solution scenario, where the lines have different slopes. It doesn't matter what the y-intercept is, as long as they have different slopes, even by like 0.001, they will have only one solution. And why am I telling you guys this? Because it's important for a couple of questions. Sometimes they'll ask you if a system not only has a solution, but how many solutions there are. Let's look at the above equation. Okay, we have this system over here. They're asking how many solutions does the system have? So easiest way that you can try and solve this is to just try and solve the system yourself. So, okay, let's solve it. Why don't we multiply the bottom system by 2, and either x or y can be the elimination variable. So that turns into 2y plus 6x is equal to 4. We'll just rewrite the top equation up there as well. If we subtract this, we get 0 is equal to -1. Now, all right, here is what you should do in the situation. If you get a false statement where you just get an answer that is blatantly wrong, that means that there are 0 solutions. Okay? So the correct answer is A. Now, in the situation, let's say this was actually 1.5. And if we multiplied it by 2, then this would have been 3. And when we did the subtraction, we got the answer of, actually, I'll keep that there. Let's say we got the answer of 0 is equal to 0. This is a statement that is objectively true all the time. You know, there's never a scenario, no matter what value x is, where the statement can be false. It's always true. This means there is an infinite amount of solutions. Now, if you get a statement where it is a variable statement like x is equal to 1 or y is equal to 8, that means there's one solution because you're getting only one solution, right? You're saying this statement is only true if this variable is equal to this one number. So yeah, I put that at the bottom there. You can screenshot that if you'd like. And the next question, this one is admittedly a little bit tough to grasp, but we'll get there. Okay, we have the system of equations up above where a and b are constants. They say a and b are constants. That means they're equal to a number, like they're equal to one number that we are not aware of. They are not variables, okay? They say, if the system has infinitely many solutions, what is the value of A? Okay. So in order to solve this, okay, what's the value of A? We have to imagine a scenario where, okay, if there is an infinite amount of solutions, then that means both of these equations have to be essentially identical to each other, right? So how do we make it so that the top equation is identical to the bottom equation? Well, you can use hints from terms that already exist. So let's take these two terms over here, 3s and -15s. If these two equations are essentially the same equation, that means that the s terms correspond to each other. And clearly, the second equation, or the second s term, is just the top equation multiplied by -5, right? So that means that the bottom equation is the top equation multiplied by -5. That is a clue we can use. So, we could say that, okay, so if the -2t corresponds to the bt, then in the coefficient, we have a coefficient of -2. What's -2 times -5? That's equal to 10. So b would probably be equal to 10. Now, what about A? If the system has infinite amount of solutions, now we have to do the reverse, where instead of multiplying by -5, if we're going in this direction, we are dividing by -5. So we do -7 divided by -5. You don't have to write it as a decimal. You can just leave it as 7/5, and that is going to be the correct value for A. I know that might be might sound a little bit complicated, but we have practice questions. Yeah, on the next slide, I'm gonna give you guys 3 minutes to solve these 4 questions starting now. All right, everybody. 3 minutes are up, so let's come back and check out these questions. All right, so first question, how many solutions? So the first 2 questions are how many solution type questions. This first one up here, you can notice pattern. They're very similar. Let's try and multiply the top one by 3 so we can make, we can make the left side equivalent to each other. And we're going to end up with 24x plus 36y is equal to 30. And if we subtract this from this, then we end up with 0 is equal to 10. That is a false statement. And remember what I said, false statements means that there are 0 solutions. One second. Yeah, 0 solutions. Now the next one, how many solutions does this have? All right, why don't we multiply the top equation by 8 so we can make the left side equivalent. We end up with 8x plus 5y is equal to 160. Oh, would you look at that? They're both essentially the same equation. So remember how I said, if you get a statement that is always true, that means there's an infinite amount of solutions? Well, think about it. If you have 2 equations that are the same, essentially the same exact equation, that automatically means that they are always going to have a true statement. So that means there's an infinite amount of solutions. For the next one, this is actually a pretty simple one. If you don't notice any immediate pattern, or if there is no way to multiply the top or bottom equation to where you can get one of the sides equal to each other, or if you can't find a pattern, it usually means that there's only one solution. Basically, any normal system, like the system you see 90% of the time, is a system that has one solution. The last question, yeah, okay. This one might be a bit of a brain turner for some of you. In the system above, A and B are constants. All right, slight error. There's no A, it's just B. So sorry if you got confused with the A thing. All right, they say the system has no real solutions. All right, no real solutions, remember, means we have a false statement, right? Something that is not true. What value is not possible for B? To get this solved, why don't we start with trying to solve the system? All right, I notice there's a pattern. If we multiply the top by 3, we'll equate the left side. So that is going to be what? 12r plus 9f is equal 27. We don't have to do all the math. You all know what's going to happen. We're going to end up with 0 is equal to b minus 27. And then we end up, okay, so with b is equal to 27. Now, this is half of, that was an awful box, my bad. Let me erase some of the bits. All right, we end up with b is equal to 27. Oh, forgot to turn drawn. This is only half the statement. Because remember, b is a constant, not a variable. So we need to find an actual value for b. And they say the system has no real solutions. If it has no real solutions, that means it is always false, right? And they're saying what value is not possible for b. So a value that is not possible for b, if this system is always false, then a value that is impossible makes the system true, right? And what value of b would make the system true all the time? It would be 27. So the correct answer is going to be B. Okay, seems like we have a question. Yes, Avanish.
Yeah, actually, I had like 2 or 3 questions. In the second equation,
Sorry. Unfortunately, we're only gonna be able to take 2 questions. So like, you have to choose like the two that you value
yeah,
most. Sorry.
I think the second one is like an error. Like it's 8x plus 40y. You wrote it as 5y, but
Oh, yeah, that was supposed to be 40y. But yeah,
okay,
question is still correct
okay. And the
regardless
second
of.
thing, yeah,
Mhm.
oh yeah, and the second one, it's like no real solutions. That means like both of them have no real solutions. What value is not possible for B? That means like we're implying that like what value of B will not give any real solutions. Am I right?
Yes. No, rather, what value of a B? They're saying what value is not possible. So they're saying the system has no real solutions. So they're saying that a value of B that is not possible is going to be the opposite of what you want. And the opposite of no real solutions is an infinite amount of solutions. So you have to find the value of B where there is an infinite amount of solutions, which is why B is equal to 27, if
Okay,
that makes
makes sense.
sense.
Yes, thank you.
All
I'm
right,
sorry for
no
taking
problem.
time.
No worries. All right, let's move on. All right, how to identify perpendicularity? All right, so the graph of line K shown in the xy plane. Which of the following is an equation of a line that is perpendicular to line K? In order to find perpendicularity, first you need to find the slope. All right, that's pretty easy. It's kind of obvious that the slope is 2 because for every unit, sorry, it's going to be -2 because for every 1 unit it moves forward, it goes down by 2. Let's just say m is equal to -2. Now, there is a rule. I'll type it out. A perpendicular slope is equal to the negative reciprocal of the conjugate slope. All right, lots of fancy words in there. Let's break down what that actually means. All right, negative reciprocal. So there's 2 parts. The negative simply means you multiply, excuse me, it simply means you multiply the conjugate slope by -1, and then reciprocal means that you fractionally flip the value. What do I mean by that? I'll give an example. Let's say we have a fraction of 3/5. If we made a reciprocal of 3/5, the reciprocal of 3/5 is equal to 5/3. You see what I mean by the flip, where the numerator and denominators are flipping? Now, how do we do a reciprocal for a whole number? Like, let's say 5. Well, think about it. 5 is equal to 5/1, right? So to turn this into a reciprocal, the reciprocal would be equal to 1/5. So, okay, we have our negative portion, and then we have to turn it into a reciprocal. So if we have a slope of -2, all right, -2 times -1 is equal to 2, and then the reciprocal of 2 is going to be 1/2 because 2 is basically equal to 2/1, and we are flipping the numerator and denominator. That's going to be the perpendicular slope. And which answer has a perpendicular slope? It's C. C is the correct answer. So yeah, remember that term, negative reciprocal. That is how you find the perpendicular slope. So I'm going to let you guys try these questions for 3 minutes, starting now. All right, everybody, 3 minutes have passed, so let's check out these questions. All right, which of the following function is perpendicular? All right, what's the negative reciprocal of 2? It's going to be negative 1 over half. Which of the following equations will give us that slope? For y, if we expand it, we're going to get 1 over 2x. We're missing the negative, so it can't be b. Obviously not a. For d, if we expand this, it's going to be negative x, not negative 1/2 x, so it can't be d. Therefore, it's c. And if you solve this normally, 1 over 4 times negative 2 is equal to negative 1 over half. So that's all good. Now, this one, which of the following functions is parallel? Okay, 1 over 3x, 1 over 3x. All right, that seems like a good thing, right? But then you might say, oh, what about d? This also has 1 over 3x. Well, there's an important distinction to make. This is 1 over 3x plus 6, because the 1 over 3 applies to 18. 1 over 3x plus 6 is basically the same exact equation as, well, they're exactly the same equation, right? Small distinction where parallel, it means that they have the same slope, but usually they have to have different y-intercepts. They need to be identifiable. So although D makes sense, A is going to be the correct option because it follows more rules. Now, some of you might feel a little bit, like, what the heck? Even though D is technically correct, what am I supposed to do here? Well, this is going to happen a lot in the ACT, especially in English sections, where you might have two answers that work relatively well, but you need to choose one. You just got to choose the answer that is better than the other. Just choose the best answer. Sometimes you might get answers where none of them seem particularly great answers, but you have to choose the one that is the best or the least worst one. All right, this is an interpretation type question. Let's read this. Voter registration drive was held in town Y. The number of voters, V, registered T days after the drive began, and it can be estimated by V is equal to 3,450 plus 65T. Excuse me. What is the best interpretation of the number 65? Okay, so they're asking us, what does 65 mean in this case? Well, 65 is obviously the slope. The slope for what? Well, T is T days, right? So for every 1 day, V increases by 65. So 3,450 is how many we started with, and 65 represents the amount of voters we gain with each day that passes, right? So which option fits that logic? A, the 65 is the number of registered voters at the beginning of the registration drive. A is going to be incorrect because the beginning of the registration drive would correspond to 3,450. So it's not A. B, the number of registered voters at the end of the registration drive. All right, the end of the registration drive is sort of equivalent to the final answer because that is the amount after T days have passed, after the total amount of time has passed. That would correspond to V. So that is not the correct answer either. What about C? Total number of voters registered during the drive. Okay, this is equal. This might sound like a good answer, but it's not completely true. The number of voters registered during the drive is corresponding to this whole term of 65T, because as the voter registration drive is moving forward in terms of days, you're gaining voters, right? So 65T represents the amount that you've gained during the drive, but that's not representative of what 65 is by itself. So C is the wrong answer. D, the number of voters registered each day during the drive. So each day it's looking at, like, all right, how many voters do we get in one day every time like a day passes, that corresponds only to 65. So therefore, D is the correct answer. All right. So I have this question for you guys. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to solve it, starting now. All right, everybody. So 1 minute has passed, and let's come back and check this question out. All right, you all read it, so I'm not going to go over the whole passage. Let's just go straight to the options. All right, they're asking what is the interpretation of the 2 in the 2x? What does the 2 mean? So A, for every community event that club advertises at, remember the number of community events is represented by X. For every community event they advertise at, they gain 1 sponsor. That is not the correct answer because we see clearly that every time they go to a community event, they gain 2 sponsors. So it's not going to be A. B obviously doesn't make sense because it says they gain $2. Dollars isn't even a variable in this whole scenario. So B just straight up doesn't make any sense. C, the club already has 7 sponsors from the beginning. That corresponds to the 7 over there, not the 2. So C is wrong. D is the correct answer. For every community event the club advertises at, they gain 2 sponsors. So yeah, hopefully that made a good amount of sense to you guys. Doesn't seem like there's any questions, so let's move on. All right, problem solving and data analysis. Okay, ratios, proportions, and percentages. So let's just straight off dive into the first question. Scientists estimate that the Pacific Plate, one of the Earth's tectonic plates, has moved about 1,060 kilometers in the past 10.3 million years. How far in miles has the Pacific Plate moved during this time period? Okay, a ratio or a proportion is basically a way to represent how much of one thing is equal to how much of another thing. So in this case, ratios can be written as x colon y, where it says, all right, this amount of x is equal to this amount of y. It can also be written as a fraction, like x over y, which is very useful for conversions, which is what we're going to do here. Now, I know a lot of you guys, typically when you're doing conversions, you like to not think about units, but it's a good idea to think about the units so that you can fully understand what you're doing. It's going to be a lot of help for any STEM people, especially chemistry people. It might sound surprising, but chemistry uses a lot of unit canceling. Anyway, all right, we have a ratio 1 mile is equal to 1.6 kilometers. That is another way of representing a ratio. You know, it's like the equal sign is similar to the to the colon. So in this case, we'll make a fractional proportion 1 mile over 1.6 not miles, kilometers. And we'll multiply 1060 kilometers by that. 1 mile over 1.6 kilometers. And the reason I said include the units is so that you can cancel the units out. Kilometers cancels out with kilometers, leaving only miles. If we solve this equation, essentially we just do 1060 miles over 1.6, and that will give us 662.5 miles. Now, remember what I said back there about the best answer thing? 662.5 is technically the correct answer, but we don't have the exact answer over here. However, we do have C, which is very close. In fact, if we round 662.5 to the first position, the 5 will round to a 3. So we're going to choose C since it's the best option. All right. Now, what about the next one? On an architect's drawing of the floor plan for a house, 1 inch represents 3 feet. So, okay, when they give you information like this, it's a good idea, if you have fast handwriting, to just jot this down. All right, 1 inch, 3 feet. If a room is represented on the floor plan by a rectangle that has sides of length 3.5 inches and 5 inches, what is the actual floor area of the room in square feet? Okay, the square feet part is important. I'll explain why. One method you could do is to directly convert the inches into feet and then multiply the two values from there. So, 3.5. Let's first rewrite that proportion. All right, 3.5 inches times 1 inch. Sorry, 3 feet over 1 inch. That's going to be equal 10.5 feet. And then we get 5 inches. Sorry, I know my handwriting is not the best, but I got a new drawing tablet, so yeah. That's going to be equal to 15 feet. And then if we do 10.5 times 15, this is our length, that's our width. We multiply those, we get 157.5 feet squared. And this feet squared is important because we multiplied these two values together, right? So if you look at the units, we get feet and feet. Feet times feet is equal to feet squared. That's the mathematical logic behind that. So D is going to be the correct answer. Now, another way you could have done this, and I worry that some of you might have gotten a bit confused if you did it this way, is where you find the area of the you find the area of the scaled model and then you convert it directly from there. So what is 3.5 times 5? That's equal to 17.5 inches squared. And then you thought, oh, okay, I can just use this ratio, right? And then you do 17.5 times 3, you get 52.5, which is the incorrect answer. So why did you end up with 52.5? That's because you need to modify this proportion because you're in inches squared, right? This is only for inches to the first power. So what you need to do is you need to take your ratio and you need to square it so that you can properly use it for square feet and square inches. You're still gonna get 1, but then your inches are gonna be converted into inches squared, and then the bottom, you're gonna get 9 feet squared. So in reality, the correct ratio is 17.5 inches squared times 1 inch squared over 9 feet squared, and then you'll end up with 157.5. So yeah, be careful of that. That's why I said look out for units, because units can be a signal for when you're doing something wrong. If you notice that your final answer has a unit you didn't expect, it means you probably did something wrong. Okay, and here we have another question type. I'm going to go over this with you guys. On Thursday, 240 adults and children attended a show. The ratio of adults to children was 5-1. How many children attended the show? All right. Now, you might think, oh, okay, so the ratio is, whoops, gotta stop forgetting to enable draw. All right. How much time do we have? Okay. You might think that the ratio is, oh, okay, 1, so like it's like 5 children to 1 adult, and then you just multiply that by 240. That is incorrect because just saying 240 adults and children. So this is like 240 in terms of totals. So you need to think in terms of totals. It says, okay, the ratio of adults to children was 5-1. Now, another way you can think about it is that if you have 6 people, 5 of them are going to be children, and then one of them is going to be an adult. So for every 6 people, you have 5 children. So in this case, 240 adults and children, you can think of the unit as 240 people. So 240 people, and then for every 6 people, there are 5 children. If you properly solve this, then you should get 200 children. All right, seems we have some questions. Yes, Rohit?
Wouldn't it be 5 adults to 1 children? Because it says that the ratio of adult to children is 5 to 1.
Oh, yeah, my bad. That was a good catch. All right. Imagine I reverse the answer. All right, let's just say that was child and this was adults. And yeah, it would be 200. But okay, for the actual answer of the question, if I didn't make the error, then the answer would be 40 in that case. So yeah, thanks for catching that. But still the current concept still applies. So yeah, we should be good with that. Thank you for catching that. Swear, you get above 18 and you're still not perfect. All right, let's go on to some practice. I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes to solve this starting now. All right, everybody, 2 minutes are up. So let's come back and check out these questions. Okay. All right, where are you, annotate? Okay, there you are. All right. We have 100 kids, and the ratio of kids to chaperones is 9 to 1. All right, just to make it clear, more kids than chaperones this time. No errors here. How many kids are in the observatory? Okay, like once again, you have to think of this in terms of totals. So if there's 10 total people, there are 9 kids for every 10. So we do 100 times 9 over 10, and we get 90. So 90 kids. All right. At the local Dave and Buster's for every 9 kids. By the way, I hope y'all know what a Dave and Buster's is. I can't be alone here. But at the local Dave and Buster's for every 9 kids, there are 3 teenagers. All right. If there are 19 teenagers inside the Dave and Buster's, what is the total amount of attendees? Okay. So we have teenagers, and then we have kids, and we need to find the total. And it says there's 19 teenagers. So we need to find the amount of kids. Now they say for every 3 teens, there are 9 kids. And how are we gonna, simply do, teenagers to kids? This is a nasty ratio. Well, if you just make it a fractional ratio, you can actually make it work out. 19 teens. Oh, wait, okay. I really hope I didn't make a question error here, but I'm just gonna go forward with it. All right. Yep, for every 9 kids, there are 3 teenagers and 19 teenagers. Okay, yeah, no, this should work. All right. If we solve this out, we can also simplify this, by the way. 9 over 3, this can be a 3, and this can be a 1. And then if we simplify it, we do 3 times 19, we get 57. All right, 57, okay? That is the amount of kids there are, but it's not the answer because we need the total, right? We have to do 19 plus 57, which will give us 76. The correct answer is C. Do we have a question, Rohit?
No, sorry. I think I just forgot to lower it from last time.
Oh, no problem. Did that all the time in remote school. I get it. All right, let's move on to the next part. Okay, we have 9 minutes left. All right, a little bit more practice. I'm gonna give you guys 1 minute to solve this. Gotta speed that pace up, right? All right, let's go. Come on. Yvonne, do you have a question?
Can I ask you a question after class?
Yeah, sure. After class, I'll have around 5 minutes where I'll stay back to answer questions. Thank you for asking.
Okay.
All right, on second thought, this is a little bit more complicated than I remember, so I'm gonna give you guys an extra minute. All right, everybody, let's come back and check the question out. All right, so this here is a question where you're gonna sort of combine ratios to come up with another ratio. All right, let's say for every 2 cheese pizzas sold, there are 4 pepperoni pizzas sold. All right, 4 pepperoni pizzas for every 2 cheese pizzas. And then for every 1 pepperoni pizza sold, there are 6 chicken pizzas sold. What is the simplest ratio of cheese pizza to chicken pizza sales? So we have to come up with the chicken to cheese ratio. And what we can do here is we can combine 2 ratios. Where, okay, what was the ratio for the chicken pepperoni pizza? It was 1 pepperoni to 6 chicken, right? We can cancel out the peps, and then we do 4 times 6, we get 24 chicken pizzas for every 2 cheese pizzas sold. Hold up. Although you might think that A is the correct answer, it's not the correct answer. They ask for the simplest ratio. Simplest means the numbers are brought to their minimum. And we can cancel out the 2 for a 1 and the 24 for a 12, and we'll get a 1 to 12 ratio. Therefore, C is the correct answer. All right, next one. All right, we have quite a monstrous ratio of 3 to 1/2 to 1/4. James is making a big batch of omelets. How many bell peppers is James going to need if he's making an omelet that uses 18 eggs? All right, you don't have to use the whole ratio. You can just use a part of the ratio. It says the ratio of eggs to bell peppers. So this is eggs and this is bell peppers. So for every 3 eggs, he uses half of a bell pepper. And okay, he's using 18 eggs. Cancel out the eggs. 3, 6, 1/2 times 6. You should get 3 bell peppers. So the correct answer is going to be D. All right, how much time? I think we have time for one more section. Gotta go fast. All right, 1 second. Trying to find my cursor. Telling you the worst part about having a black background is that you can't tell where your cursor is sometimes. Okay, can we do this? Yeah, we can do this. Okay. County Y consists of 2 districts. One district has an area of 30 square miles and a population density of 370 per square mile, and the other district has an area of 50 with a population density of 290. What is the population density for all of County Y? So population density, based off of context from the passage, is going to be number of square miles. Sorry, no. It's going to be the amount of people per mile squared, per square mile. So they say, okay, one district has an area of 30 square miles and a population density of 370. So in order to find this out, we need to find the total amount, so total amount of miles squared, and then the total number of people in order to get the population density for all of County Y. So let's find the total amount of people first. All right, one district has an area of 30 square miles. and 370 people for every square mile. All right, that's 30 times 370, which is equal to 11,100 people. And then for the next one, that's going to be, we have 50 miles, 50 square miles, and their population density is 290 people. And if you solve that, you should get 14,500 people. If you add these two up, you should get 2,500, sorry, 25,600 people. And then the total amount of square miles we have is 30 plus 50, right? So we have 80 miles squared. And if you divide that by 80, you should get population density of 320 people per mile squared. All right, so seems like we are just out of time. So I will not have you guys do the practice just yet. We'll start with the practice next session. Yeah, before we I let you go, I want to say there are some people who have signed up but have not made the payment donation yet. So if you could do the payment ASAP, that would be great. Once again, all the proceeds are going to charity for Grace Cancer Foundation. My uncle is actually part of that, which so I can vouch for it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for attending the first session. I'd say that went pretty well. And yeah, I'll see you guys later on Friday. Thank you guys for coming. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to stay back for a bit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
you. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right then. Sakis, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. When are we gonna get our homework? Do you have any homework for this or no?
This is not a program that gives homework, so you don't have to worry
Okay.
about that.
Okay.
Mridula, do you have a question? Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
Sorry. I have a question, but it's kind of personal though.
Oh,
Is it?
okay. If you like, we can save that for last if you don't mind.
I mean, if it's okay with you, that's just yeah.
By personal, what do you mean by personal?
Like, what kind of what college do you go to and stuff like that?
Oh, okay. No problem. I have no problem answering that. I'll save that one for last though, just in case there's other people who have like more pressing questions. So if you don't mind, yeah. Yukti, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I was wondering if the slideshow would be like shared to us because I actually missed the first like few
Oh,
minutes of the
okay.
presentation.
I see. Okay, so the thing is, unfortunately, the policy states that I'm not allowed to do that immediately. 1 second. I'm not allowed to do that directly. I had to ask last time. I'll see if I can do it, but no guarantees.
Okay, because I just needed the like first few slides where like you gave an
Yeah,
overview.
I get it. I
section.
get it.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure. I can post like that important information later.
sure. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Sahasini, do you have a question?
Oh yeah, I have a question. For the SAT and ACT, so do we have to take both or can we just take one?
You only have to take one, and some people like to take two just to like further affirm their level of sureness in the application. Some people are test optional and don't even take the exam. I would suggest you take at least the ACT, SAT or ACT. You don't have to take both of them.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Samprit, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering in the formula that you gave us for population density, how come you
Yeah.
didn't like for one of them it was like 30 miles square, right? How come you didn't put that in the
Yeah. Put then the denominator.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't exactly remember. If sometimes I just move quickly, and I will write things a little bit differently. I apologize if it caused any confusion. Yeah, I don't really have an excuse for that. Sorry, but
Okay, so it would go in the denominator then?
miles should go in the denominator. Yes,
Okay, cool. Thanks.
no problem. Yvonne, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know. What tip do you have for me?
Sorry. Your audio is cutting out. Can you repeat that again?
I'm a ninth grader, and what tip do you have for me?
Sorry. You said a type of something. If you're having trouble, you can chat it to me, and I'll answer that privately. Oh yeah, there was someone who asked wanted to ask me about my college or something. If you could raise your hand, I'll unmute you. Yes, Mridula, you want to ask about something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, what college did you get into, and like, how did like SAT or ACT help you, and like, what was your score and stuff?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so currently I'm at Boston University, which is one of the top 20 colleges in the nation, or top 50 colleges in the nation. It's a pretty darn awesome school. And SAT and ACT definitely helped me a lot to get in here, especially my ACT score. I got a 35 on the ACT, which is honestly an insane score. Like, you should see my reaction when I got a 35. It's yeah, it was a very high score, and I was able to get into BU not completely because of my ACT. I did a lot of volunteer work as well, but ACT I feel definitely played a good part in it. On the SAT, I got a 1500, which is equivalent to a 34 on the ACT.
Yeah, and also like, did you like begin volunteering work in like ninth grade, or like did you like start in like junior year, like how
Okay. I started mainly volunteering in junior year. I wouldn't recommend that though. Like, if you can volunteer, just go do it ASAP. Like, freshman, just go. Like, just volunteer. Any experience is good experience.
Okay. Wait, and what career are you like trying to like pursue like in
I
Boston?
am looking to become a physician, like every Indian parent wants their kid to become.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Hasni, you have a question?
Oh yeah, how many volunteer hours do you need to graduate?
For graduation requirements, that depends on your school. Typically, most schools don't even require that you have a certain amount of volunteer hours to graduate. You should look into your school for that. I will say, however, even if you don't have a volunteer hour requirement, you absolutely should volunteer if you're looking to get into a college that is pretty good, because volunteer hours are incredibly important.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, well, it seems that's all the questions we have here today, so I'll be leaving now. Bye.
I have a question.
You have a question, Yvonne?
Thank you. Bye.
No problem.
I just wanted to know. I'm
Yep.
a ninth grader, and I was wondering if you have any tips for me.
Any tips for a ninth grader? I mean, there's not much I can say for at your age currently, because ninth grade feels like such a far time away from me. Now, I will say, this might sound like counterintuitive, but really explore in ninth grade. Like try and find things you like to do. Like check out clubs, check out like more people. Just try and make like whole lots of friends, get connections, and try and like find what interests you, and if you can turn that into something reasonably application worthy. I'll give you an example. I play a lot of video games, and that is arguably a waste of time, but if you have like a electronic society at your school, or like a video game club, and you join it and maybe get a leadership position in that club, that can look really good in your application, for example.
Okay. Another question I had is what clubs did you go to, if any?
I joined a JFA, which is sort of like a debate club. I didn't really do that many clubs in high school compared with my volunteering, so I'm not really the person you should ask about that, but join the clubs that you feel are interesting to you. It's best to join clubs that you like and not ones that you're like, oh, I have to take this because it's good on my application.
Okay, my last question is what's college life like?
What's college life? It might feel like you have a lot of free time, but in reality you don't, because you're not gonna have a lot of class time. It's gonna be like almost like half of the class time that you have in high school, but you're gonna have a whole lot more work to do outside of class. But it's honestly pretty nice here, and you're gonna be living in a dorm if you're not at home. So that can be nice depending on whether or not you want to be away from home.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Nitin, do you have a question?
I just wanted to say congratulations on like everything that you did and like the score on your ACT. Yeah, I just like it was helpful, like what you said. I'm in eighth grade, so but it's still helpful.
Oh, you're in eighth
Yes.
grade.
Mhm.
All right. Well,
Thank
what's
you.
a little square like you doing here? Hey, good for you, man. Good for coming here and getting early in on the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
No problem. All right. You
thank you.
keep it up, and thank you for the kind words. All right. I'll be leaving now, and yep, I guess we'll end this.